Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. Greetings. Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. My name is Darrell Scott. We bring on everybody. We got all kinds of different instruments, and when you play jazz, if you look at an orchestra and all the different parts and pieces that go with it, and each one has a long roster of people who play. There are people who are at the top of the ladder. There are people who are climbing up the ladder. Some, like this guy, moving up a little faster than we would all hope or that we want. He's just knocking people off the edge and all this sort of stuff with his playing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Eric Valentine. Eric, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm wonderful, blessed, man. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Not a problem, sir. First of all, drums. How did you get started? How did you, out of this huge pool of people, why did you pick the drums?
Well, I believe that drums are just a part of me. I was chosen to play drums rather than me choosing drums. I used to play on my mom and dad's, the little Quaker Oats oatmeal containers.
Yes.
That would be on the porch, playing. I come from a musical family, so I would just be beating on things, and I'm thankful that my parents saw that as an opportunity for talent rather than something's wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where it all started, man. And over the time, I just stayed with rhythm, and I was actually playing bass before I actually got my first drum set. So, and then once I got my first drum set, man, that was it. You know what I mean?
The thing that always gets me is I am a novice. I'm the guy. I don't sing. I don't play. But if you need somebody to bring you on stage, I will fill that role. So, but the drums were always, you were the guys that could never rest because you are playing behind every song. Unless you get a solo or somebody else gets a solo, you don't get an opportunity to kind of decompress or rest. Building up that stamina to play. If it's a 90-minute show, you're playing for 90 minutes. How do you get that stamina and that muscle mass going?
Well, it's just like, anything with repetition, now on a level of being skilled at my craft and that not being a hobby, I actually would train myself. I would get on a treadmill, and it was this legendary guitarist named Steve Lukather that I toured with.
Mm-hmm.
And so the requirement on those shows were sometimes we were doing 2-hour shows, maybe 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And I might get one break, man. We talking rock, like hardcore,
Yeah.
And so I would get on a treadmill, and whatever the requirement of energy that was needed on the drum set, I would do that on a treadmill and work out, you know what I mean, to get my wind right. And then, growing up playing drums, you build up the strength. I'd be in my mom and dad's basement all day, so 2 hours was nothing if I'm sitting on an instrument all day playing, you know what I mean? So a combination of those two things kind of got me in shape and ready,
And then you turn around and you have to know every single song. If I asked you today, how many songs do you have in your head that you have in your repertoire? Or if I said, we're on stage and we're doing this, we're going to play this song. How many of those songs do you know without having to follow a sheet or notes or anything like that?
Well, I'm very good with intuition. Anyway, even if I didn't know the song, you know what I mean? And you do this long enough, you kind of understand the ebb and flow of how a song works and what your responsibility is in that song to get people through. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, but as far as the number of songs, man, I couldn't even say thousands. I mean, it's a playlist that, to the point that, um, if I'm having a conversation with someone, or and I hear a song in the background, it's either I played on it or I've played it, and it can be distracting. Like there was a time when I was on the Dave Cosgrove, when I was working on music. My wife, and she was a vocalist also, so she would be learning music in one area where she's a vocalist, so she has to sing. A lot of times I'm cerebral. I'm just reading the music and writing my charts out and things like that.
Hmm.
But I would hear the song in the other room, and it would throw me off because I probably played it before with that artist, or you know what I mean, or that's me playing. And yeah, so it becomes a challenge. But the list is long, man. And at this point in my life, I try not to count. It's just,
I
but
don't blame you.
yeah, man, a lot of songs.
So here's the other thing, and you kind of mentioned it. So
Mm,
your wife sings, you've played with
mm,
numerous people, you have your own stuff. Is the challenge to kind of be a chameleon drummer because you have to adapt to that person and then to that person and to that person? We were going on. You're on the Dave Cox cruise. There's
mm,
9,000 people on there. I'm thinking there's three people on the ship, and all the
mm.
rest of them are musicians. But
Right,
but if you're playing for Cos and then you're playing for, I don't know who was on there, Jeff
right,
Bradshaw or whoever,
right.
how do you adjust to their particular personality or their particular style?
Well, I'm coming from a place of service and gratitude, so it's a pleasure to learn their music. Like for me, a lot of people have hired me because it feels like I've always been there
Hmm.
the first time, and a lot of times I don't get a lot of like ahead work as far as like rehearsing. We might have one rehearsal, and then we have to execute and perform. You know, so a lot of times because of that, man. You have to make yourself available and ready. I've always wanted to. I never wanted to be just one known for one thing.
Hmm.
I diversify. You know what I mean?
Wow.
You
I-
know.
It, it's just amazing to me, as I said, and I've talked to a few drummers. I
Mm,
have a couple of friends here in town who are drummers,
mm,
and they're always sweatiest, but they're always in the best shape.
mm,
It's kind of funny. It's like I saw a friend of mine just the other day. He was playing on an outdoor thing, and
mm.
he gets up and he's 6'2" and I'll say slightly ripped,
Uh-huh.
but it's just a thing where you drummers are just, it's consistency. If I find a good one, you're forever booked with somebody. How often do how many dates do you do a year?
I don't do as many days as I used to. Because only because I'm working on other projects that require my time.
Hmm.
There was a period in my life where I was doing a lot more, if you understand, chasing,
Hmm.
and now I'm at a
Yes.
point in my life where I'm obtaining.
Right.
So because of that, I don't go and tour as much as I want to, as much as I did before. I wouldn't say not as I want to because I'm doing what I like to do.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just there was a time every weekend I'd be gone and I would play a festival and I'd be with two or three artists on that festival, flown in, and then stay the night and play with two or three more artists the next day. You know, and it was a lot, man. It was a lot of traveling, but I was single then. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And so now being married to my wife, um, I want more experiences where we are sharing them. I don't want, there's no place like home.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So I'm at a point in my life now where, that matters to me. And if I do leave my home, I want to be in an environment that's, embracing my gift.
Hmm.
And earlier in my career, not necessarily every artist that you may work with embraces that gift, and you're just hustling.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? But I'm working on operating in love and happiness. That sounds like a song.
I
And
was gonna say, I hear Al Green all of a sudden.
right. So, that's where I'm at now, man. So, I work a lot with Richard Elliot. I
Hmm.
work with Peter White on occasion, with Braun. Those are kind of these days the main artists that I work with. Lindsey Webster. I do a lot of recording for different artists in the genre as well. So,
Yes, Lindsey Webster's she's coming here, I think in a couple of weeks. I don't remember the date.
Hmm.
You mentioned your wife, and you and her are both artists, musicians,
Hmm.
singers. And as opposed to hearing anything, let's just listen to it. It's a song called "Back in the Day," which you're on, she's on, a whole bunch of people are on. It's good music, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to this on the Jazz Flight Podcast.
After church, we play in spades. Got me missing those good old days. Take me way back, way back in the day. Wish you could stay, that's fine. Back in the day, good time. Back in the day, wish you could stay alright. Back in the day.
That is "Back in the Day" from our guest today, Eric Valentine. That female voice you heard on there is his wife, B. Does she go by just B?
Yeah, she goes B Valentine. Yeah, B Valentine. Yeah. Hmm.
So then would you be E Valentine? And then where's the rest of the alphabet fill in?
Well, B goes for her middle her maiden name,
Okay. All
and
right.
before we were married, she went by the name of Baskerville Jones, and she was the lead person for this group called the Rebirth. And so when she got married to me, we went down the road of B Valentine. So that's how that happened.
Baskerville Jones played for the University of Arkansas, I believe, way back before you were born. That
Okay.
that makes me really old. Um, but that's interesting
Hmm.
how you all come up with different names, and I realize that not everybody uses their real name. They have stage names.
Hmm.
How much do you and your wife perform together?
Not as much as we would like to, for sure. But we're building that infrastructure, man, with creating more music and venues and opportunities for us to be able to do that. So that's one of the pushes that we are at now in our quest for an abundant life. We
Hmm.
want to be, producing and creating more music together.
Now, husband and wife are good when it's kitchen and you got a daytime job, let's say. When you're musicians and she writes a song and wants you to play on it, are there discussions that you have to have? And if there are, I can ask you and I'll ask her whenever we can have her on. Who wins these discussions?
I mean, it's a musical home. I mean, like our studio is in our home. She has a studio in an area of the house where she works on her music and ideas. But we're always talking through. And I mean, I more than anything, I love to produce. So
Hmm.
a lot of the music that you hear that's my material, I've engineered it, produced it, either mixed it or co-mixed it. So I'm really involved in the process. Usually drums is the last thing I'm concerned about. So
Wow.
yeah, so like what the vocal parts that she sings, how her voice is, translating, hey, maybe you should fall off this line a certain kind of way, you know. We get pretty deep into it. So
Yes. That's that's what I can't wait to hear more music. And when you release your first single, please let me know because
right.
I want to be there too, just to
Hmm.
listen and feel this vibe that you got going on. You how did you your production skills? Because this is one of the things that amazes me. Somebody comes to you,
Hmm.
somebody that maybe you know or maybe that you don't know, but comes to you and says, "I want you to produce and engineer my song."
Hmm.
How much leeway do you take? How much do you give input to go, this isn't bad, but you need to do this? And where did those chops come from? Is it just from being in the basement and listening to different songs and going, I think I would put this here and put that there?
Well, I mean, that might be a part of it. I mean, we all know good music, but we may not know how to make good music.
Hmm.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Or just like you might eat spaghetti. You might know the ingredients, but you don't know how to mix them properly for
Right.
it to be delicious. And so
Hmm.
everybody has a taste, and that's what you hear in different kinds of music and different producers, their taste and what they prefer. Me, I've always been a student of listening to music. I've always loved music, and then I've been in environments from playing the live stage, being a music director, or like for a few years I was music director for Jonathan Butler back in the day. I was music director for Stephanie Mills and some other artists like that. And so you just kind of learn all of those ingredients kind of give you the information you need when it comes to the studio. Now, studio is a different kind of thing. I used to have an engineer come over to my house once or twice a week and just sit with me while I was working on frequencies, learning how to
Hmm.
hit the frequencies, you know. But it started with me wanting to be the best drummer, as far as like I wanted to be on stage and be able to have a conversation and give the best sound and performance. So I'll be like, I need a little more 5K, a little more this K. I learned how to capture that and understand that, and all of these chops, listening to music, being around great musicians and vocalists, and you just, if you desire to, you can bring all that in and use it to your advantage, and that's what I did.
And
Always listening, always having your ears open, ready to receive something.
let me say this: you're not old enough to be the musical director, Stephanie Mills. That's all I'm gonna say.
Ah, well, how old you gotta be?
Well, I'm thinking. I think Stephanie's around my age, and I'm retired. I'll say it that way.
Okay.
Um, so I'm thinking. I was in radio, and Stephanie. I remember Home and
Yep.
all that sort of stuff. So okay? I'll just leave it there
Well, they
because
have tools also to make us look a certain kind of way. What Billy D used to say, don't let the smooth taste fool you. Yes, sir.
nice, nice.
You know,
Um,
but yeah, man. But I was with her back in let me see, I guess that was right before I moved to LA. So around '04, something like that. I was with her.
it
Yeah.
is it is always remarkable to me to see the journey that you all go on and how you go from music director. We just had Jonathan Butler here in town
Hmm.
this past weekend, and Jonathan's a great guy. He and Kirk Whalum, I go, you two are brothers, you just don't know it, because they share a lot of the same values. Playing, they're both faith-based, got some great songs and everything,
Hmm.
and Kirk is always checking on me to make sure I'm doing well.
Hmm.
Uh, Jonathan's kind of the same way. Kirk and I have a longer relationship. As a
Hmm.
matter of fact, I can't. Oh, the picture's back here. So I have an
Hmm.
autographed picture of Kirk,
Okay.
and I showed it to him.
Hmm.
Darrell, where'd you get that from? You signed it. I'm like, no. So we laugh about that, and we'll talk about a lot of things.
Hmm.
What what has the journey been for you? I mean, with playing all these different people, or playing with all these different people, it's got to be an experience. Like Steve Lukather, I think of 99,
Hmm.
Hold the Line, and stuff
Yep.
like that.
Hmm.
And you're in there with, I think Nathan East is on a tour. He plays bass with them. And you
Yeah.
look at this collection of musicians. What do you learn from all the other musicians that you have worked with? What are you taking that you will use when you're the leader?
Uh, well, be unique. Don't be afraid to be who you are. There's an audience for it. Don't worry about that. Be true to yourself. Um, and as best you can, treat people the way you want to be treated.
Hmm.
And those are two really, really important things, You know, operating in gratitude, you know, humility, you know what I mean? And those things, take you a long way, you know. Yeah, because I mean, I did this tour with it's called G3, where it's Joe Satriani. It's always his tour, but Luke, he referred me to Steve Vai, and
Hmm.
Steve Vai was on the tour also. So one of the runs in the year that I did a whole year with Luke, and then I did a run with playing for Luke and Steve Vai.
Hmm.
And so, man, I lost a lot of weight then.
Really?
Yeah, because I was playing with Luke one set, and then I would play a set with Steve Vai every night. And yeah, man, I lost a lot of weight, but I was eating a lot of pizza. It was in Europe, so I was eating a lot of bread. But and I learned so much of being around these guys.
Right.
The attention to detail, the unique way they get from A to Z. How they operate in their greatness. And all of these artists that I work with, I've been able to. I just make it my way to always learn something from the experience. Don't just go after the check.
Right.
You can make money anywhere, but experiences are way more important and valuable.
It is always, I've talked to a lot of I don't know how to put this, and I don't mean any disrespect. There are people who are, let's say, are at the head of the stage.
Hmm.
The people who are behind the stage who actually kind of make them always have a different story. But you have to be in demand.
Hmm.
It is, so are there people jealous of you, or are there people that go, I got to get to him first so I can book my tour so he can be with me?
Hmm.
Is that a great degree of gratification for you?
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, it's everybody wants to be wanted, desired. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so you it does feel good to know that your books are filled, and
Hmm.
you're able to always be able to serve and perform for people. It's a great feeling to have that. Is it the end all be all? Not necessarily this point in my career now.
Hmm.
Like I said, I'm more focused on really. I have a lot of music. My wife has a lot of music that needs to be heard and said.
Hmm.
And if I'm always gone, I can't give the attention that
Right.
our affairs do. You know what I mean?
So do you
So
do you two try to match your schedules, or are you gone and she's at home, and then she's gone and you're at home?
stay tuned. We still working it out. If somebody calls her to do a gig, man, they may not necessarily want Eric to be a part of the puzzle, part of the party. But if I'm available, I'll fly with her and still support her and help her. You know what I mean? And we're together. Sometimes we get to do shows together, like the Dave Cost cruise for about 8 years. Both of us were employed, so you know, we were able to do that together, and it was great.
What is what is it like being on that cruise amongst all that talent? Or are there times when you go, that stuff happens in the evening, I'm going to go sit on the balcony, read a book, have a beverage, and just kind of relax?
Well, it's a beautiful experience, man, because it's one big family, and the guests that come on, our friends and family who come on those cruises, um, it's about them. It's about us, giving them the best time of their lives, as Dave would say, and it's a pleasure to do that, man. For me, depending on what my workload is, I got to stay ready.
Hmm.
It's not a vacation for me.
No, it's not.
It's not a vacation. I'm there to perform, and people have an expectation. They've spent their hard-earned money and time to get great performances. You know what I mean? And so for me, I need to stay ready, mindset. I'm a thinker, man. I'm thinking about every little thing because when I play on stage, if you see me play, I'm going. There's moments when I'm going crazy and twirling drumsticks and all this other stuff. It's like I have to be comfortable enough to go beyond the status quo, you
But
know.
if I see you up on the Lido deck
Hmm. Well, I
having
gotta eat.
breakfast,
I
but
gotta eat.
if I see you sitting up there on the Lido deck,
Mhm.
could I stop over and have a
You
conversation with
could.
you and talk?
You
Yeah.
paid for that. You paid for that. Yes, sir. If you don't want to be bothered, you stay in your room. But once you step out the door, you better be ready to talk to people. That's my mentality. Sometimes I have to order I have breakfast, brought to my room. Because I may be, fatigued and that my mental state is not in a place where I can really entertain conversation, because I'm wanting to stay ready.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like a Mamba mentality in that regard. I'm very, I really take this, serious, man. And because I remember wishing and hoping to be able to see the world and be able to affect lives, being able to, I'm playing drums and the way I perform at my high level helps an artist to be able to translate what they need to. You never know what that person is dealing with out there in our audience. And our
Right.
performance might have changed their lives. There might have been a person thinking, after this show, I'm going home to kill myself. And it could be something in that show that changed their lives.
Right.
So I don't take it lightly.
All right. We're going to take a quick break and listen to some more of your music. This is the cue for Quincy Jones?
You got it. That's right.
You just got to ask. You never sure. It could have been
Yeah.
for some other that. So this is Quincy's vibe or Q's vibe on the
Right.
Jazz Flyte Podcast with Eric Valentine. Hughes Vibe by Eric Valentine on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm Darrell Scott. Eric, in the short time that we have talked, the thing that I have learned about you, um, which me being selfish, I take for my own use, you seem to be such a very positive guy. And I'll say this, and I think you'll get it. You have a very Jonathan Butler, Kirk Franklin, Kirk Whalum mindset. Um, and it's very refreshing to hear considering everything that is going on in the world. Where did you learn this from? Or is this just a part of your upbringing and this is what the family did and you're just carrying it on as part of your legacy?
Well, it's a choice, man, and and I'm purpose driven. I believe that whatever people may believe, but I believe God put me here to feed the world, not to take away from it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And so, because I want to be a vessel of love and joy, and, I work hard to be in that place, man. You know what I mean? That's I believe that God uses people who are willing to go out there and love on folks. You know what I mean? And so it's all a ministry. Like you mentioned JB and you mentioned Kirk. I spent a lot of time with them earlier in my career when I first kind of got on the scene. Matter of fact, like JB was the reason I moved to LA.
Hmm.
He was like, "Hey man, you need to move to LA." And once I moved to LA, I started working with him, and then I was working with Raymond Tisdale. I was working with Kirk. I was working with I did a tour with Mindy Abair.
Hmm.
It just all these people, and it was just you learn from that area of gratitude that these people have. You know what I mean? And a lot of the artists that I've worked with, I've been blessed that God has kind of protected me from the other kind of folk.
Hmm. Yeah, I get it.
you
Yeah.
know so in that regard, that's been a blessing, man. But just I can say, Peter White, Rick Braun, Richard, Elliot, all of this, especially in this genre of music. I've been blessed that most people are on the positive side. I've other genres as well, but I've done a lot more work these days in the contemporary jazz world. So
It is it is refreshing to hear, as I said, considering the status of what is going on and the things that are publicized.
hmm
We hear more about, I'm not going to name names. I'm trying
hmm
to think of ways to say it where you will know who I'm talking about. But, you know, um, whether it's baby oil or whatever's going on,
right.
let me let me be me. Let me stand in my lane. Let me grow in my lane and let people know this is how I feel. And this is the vibe I get from you.
hmm
And that is a vibe I don't ever stop.
hmm
Keep doing what you're doing. Um, and just like you said, just be you. And sometimes that's the toughest thing in the world because you have so many influences coming at you. And
Uh-huh.
these might be people that you respect, people you've grown up listening to. So they may have some effect on your personality, but you still stand with you,
hmm hmm
which is great. Is that family based? Is that mom and dad
Well,
and
I think so. I think that's a piece of it. Mom and dad, my upbringing with my folks. I grew up in a Christian home. My, I grew up in a home where we definitely respect and we love each other. And things of that sort. Try to treat people the way you I always believe treat people the way you want to be treated. The golden rule. You know what I mean?
hmm
And you receive blessings that way, man. And also want to be. We're not here for ourselves. We've been put here for ourselves.
right.
You know what I mean? So it's
Hmm.
like if you put yourself in a place of being of service, then you've made yourself available for situations to come your way.
It is this. I'm a big fan of number one, your time management skills because don't get me wrong, bro, man, you got a lot of stuff going on.
Yes, sir.
Um, a lot of stuff going on. How do you manage that?
Stay tuned.
But okay,
Who's still working that out? But
all
yeah.
right. But then it's also
Mhm.
how do you decompress? How do you take some time and go at one point, whether it's a half an hour, whether you venture off to, I got a buddy going to Hilton Head this weekend, and he goes, I just need to be me. And I need space. We're
Mhm.
talking to Richard Smith. He's got the home up on the island in Vancouver, and I'm like, dude, if I could come through this phone right now or this line right now, I would be there. But
Yeah.
it's wonderful because I think I'm at an age where I've grown to say I need some me time.
Hmm.
And it's not a bad thing.
Right.
It's more beneficial for you because then I refresh myself. What do you do to get that me time?
I'm learning a lot of times, man. Just sitting still,
Right.
just
Yes.
sitting still, man. Or just doing something, that we all have this inner child that never grows up. That if we don't acknowledge that, that child will run us around.
Yeah.
So my inner child, I give my inner child some time. Sometimes I just sit and play some video games or just lay still on the couch or, try to, hang with my wife, or something like that. But or just and like when I'm on the road, it's hard for me to sleep just because it takes a long time for me to decompress from the day.
Right.
You know what I mean? But just being able to sit still is important, man. I do some meditating. I'm working now on doing more like self hypnosis and things of that sort. Um, Breathing.
Hmm.
These are areas of my life now that I'm realizing as my world is expanding even more, that I have to have that in place. You know.
Yeah, because you got to be on point in a heartbeat.
Hmm.
So like I said, you could be sitting up having breakfast on the ship, and I walk up and we talk about something different. We might,
Hmm.
I might be some dreaming. I might be some record guy who's might be trying to convince you to come with my record label, or can you come do this for me, or can I get you on my tour? And the tour starts 2 days after you get off the ship.
Right.
That is so wild. Now, here's a tough question. You talked about all this stuff that you're doing. What else you got going on? What is there room on, we got a holiday coming up. Is there
Uh-huh.
room on the plate for something else?
When you
How
make
much you
room,
got? Yeah.
you have to make that room. It won't do it for you. If my wife and I, we're gonna chill tomorrow, and spend some time together,
Hmm.
and just relax and kind of catch up, you know.
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to that, man, and uh, and kind of keep it simple.
Right.
There's moments where we might go and take a trip, go somewhere where we have a place or something like that, and relax. But sometimes the simplest things take you so far.
Right. Yes. Yes. I was once on my wife had a friend who was celebrating their 50th birthday and they invited 100 people to be on the cruise. So
Hmm.
I went and everybody wants to party and go here and go there. And the question always was, where's Darrell?
Hmm.
Darrell's out on the balcony with a giant bowl of fruit, his Kindle, and I somehow managed to sneak a giant cup on there, and I can't tell you what was filled in it,
Right.
but and watching Blue, and
Uh-huh.
I just people I don't think people understand what, and I think you know what I mean. Blue, it moves, it's just peaceful, and as I'm sitting there staring off into space, this albatross comes by,
Mm.
no wings flapping. How are you flying? Oh, you're flying off the current of the ship. As that thought crosses my mind, dive straight down into the ocean. Comes
Hmm.
up, it's got a fish.
Right.
Here's the next logical question. There's no dining room or kitchen for you to go eat that fish. Where are you going? And you just watch it fly off. And it's like, I'm not gonna worry about it. He knows where he's going. I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, there's sometimes, and I think you fall into this category. You have worked so hard all these many years. When the time comes to decompress, that's what you need to do.
Need
Uh,
to do. Need
right.
to. Have to
Um,
do. Really.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Eric, this has been a pleasure, man. I'm glad we had the chance to speak.
Yeah, man.
I cannot wait to have your better half on,
Yes.
or as sometimes we say, your best half on. Um, but that'll be interesting because not to compare notes, but to compare notes and just see. Can't wait for the music, man. Once you and the wife put something out, please let Jazz Flight know. We'll get it out to our social media. If you're ever in the Cleveland area, let me know. We'll see if we can get together and breakfast, lunch, coffee, whatever.
Yeah. Do you know Ron Hubbard?
Yeah, very well.
Well, that's my bro, man. That man, when I back in the day when we both were auditioning for Patti LaBelle.
Okay.
And I remember I forget my brother's last name, the guy's last name, but his name was Robert. He was already working with Patty. I remember we stayed the night in his room. Both of us were, auditioning, and he was just always been a brother, just kind of
Yeah.
gave me love, good people. And, of course, I give a shout out to Tony Felici.
Right.
You know,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so that's my
He,
homie. Yeah.
so, and quick story. Tony and I, he worked for the Tri-C Jazz Fest.
Hmm.
I worked for the Tri-C Jazz Fest, but it was like two ships in the night.
Uh-huh.
All of a sudden it's you know so and so. Yeah, I know so and so. Then how come I didn't see you? He goes, "Was that you in the office in the corner?" I go, "Yeah, that was me." So, and Tony has been a big fan of the show.
Hmm.
He has suggested you, your wife.
Hmm.
There's Greg Walker, Chris Walker, whole countless numbers of people. So a lot of the success goes to Tony for everything that he's done. But best of luck to you, man. Great things are in your future. Keep doing what you're doing. And like I said, whatever you got going on, please let us know. We'll put it out there. We'll make sure that people hear it here in Cleveland.
All right, man. Thank you so
All right,
much.
man. Thank you very much. You've been listening to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Most of the time, this knucklehead is Darrell Scott. We will talk to you next week. If you really like what's going on and you like the artists that we talk to, please subscribe. Thank you. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I hope you enjoy these stories and soulful melodies that groove through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.